This is an interview with Mr. and Mrs. J.F. Floyd of 408 C Street Southeast in Ardmore, Oklahoma on March 17, 1956.
Now you ready? James J.F. Floyd, born in Springfield, Missouri, in the old home of Jesse Frank James, January 25th, 1884. Come to Indian Territory, Ardmore Indian Territory, December 1899. Worked came by a covered wagon. Took 29 days to make the trip from Springfield, Missouri to Ardmore Indian Territory. Phones on the way. The wagon seats were tore up. But we only had 2 days delay. The rest of the time we was traveling. Just 2 days that we didn't travel. On Sunday, we didn't travel on Sunday. Traveled every weekday, but 2 on the whole journey. It took 29 days to make it.
Well, how many people were there traveling with y'all?
There was 4 children, and my father and mother, and an uncle and an aunt. That's 8 of us on the trip.
And so you had quite an experience on doing that, didn't you?
We did, yeah. Turned out when we got to Ardmore, we lived on 5th Avenue Northeast at the old Rudolph College.
Well, what kind of house was it?
It was 2 rooms.
A log
box house? No, box house. There was only one log house in Ardmore when I come here, and there's 700 ranch.
Well, what kind of furniture did you have in it?
We had beds and a cook stove, a heat stove, a table.
Is that all?
Well, no dressers at all. We had a looking glass.
Well, who are your nearest neighbors?
Sylvester Musgrave.
Is he still living here?
And no, he's dead. Ms. Hamilton. Ms. Hamilton on 4th Avenue, Northeast, still living.
Well, what amount of land did you have? Did you have any land?
Well,
here?
we moved to the 460 acres of land between the Standpipe and the City Lake in 1901. Started. Now, the year 1900, I worked in a grocery store on East Main, just east where the Santa Fe people is now. And on Saturday, we put on special sales. We sold 13 pounds of Arbuckle 4X or lime coffee for $1. 13 pounds for $1. We sold side meat, dry salt, 4 cents a pound, and smoked bacon for 6 cents a pound. At that time, there's only 4 businesses in Ardmore now that was here then. Tyler and Simpson, the Daily Ardmorite, Luke's Music Store, and the Dolby Store. That's the only business that's still here now that was here when I come here. Where the depot stands now will be interesting to you young folks. It's a jockey yard. You may not know what a jockey yard is. That's where we gathered up to swap horses. There's a jockey yard. Where the Santa Fe depot stand now, there's a whole block of ground there that's the headquarters for jockey yard, trading horses. In 1901, we entered the dairy business in Ardmore. And the biggest desire in my life was to make 100 pounds of butter in one day, but I never got above 96. 96 pounds, the most I ever got. The next biggest thrill of my life, though, was when I was first scoutmaster for 7 years. And I meet those fine young men who were up my scout troop. I get happy.
How did you sell your groceries?
Well, groceries come in bulk, and they're sold by pound and ounce, laid out on scale. Pepper and sugar and salt for $1.10 for 300 pounds. And the flour that we handled, sack flour, was plan sifter made by the Ardmore Milling Company. That's the Ardmore Milling Company was here too when I come here. It's called plan sifter, 50 pounds for 55 cents. It's a little over a cent a pound. Everything was so much cheaper. The containers, I guess, is what costs now instead of the food camp.
Well, the people, do they really buy a bunch at a time or what?
Oh, most of them come to town once a week on Saturday. Mm-hmm.
And they buy all their supplies?
Yes, ma'am. I had one farmer. He brought in a dozen hens. I give him 15 cents a piece for them. He brought in 10 dozen eggs. He gave him a nickel a dozen for them. Then I turned around and he brought 15 bushels of corn. I give him $3 for 15 bushels of corn, 20 cents a bushel. And then I sold him back his coffee 13 pounds for $1, and his sugar 25 pounds for $1 on sugar. I've got that statement yet that was made to him when he set it up for his corn and chickens and eggs.
What were the displays like in the store? What did they have
Well,
people could see?
we had little candy cases. The rest of it just boxes and barrels and counters set stuff around on and shelves to the wall. There wasn't any help yourself then. It was all behind the counter. You come into the front of the store, push the tobacco here, and your coffee on down there, and your sugar on down there, and then right in the back was lamp oil and cheese. There was no help yourself stuff all put out on the counter. We dipped it out of a barrel and waited. The Lord coming in 200-pound barrels. We dipped it out with a wooden paddle. Waited out to them.
Well, what was the main store in Ardmore at that time?
Well, Dobby's was the main dry goods general merchandise store. They handled everything nearly. And R.W. Randall handled everything in the line of merchandise from farming implements, clothes, and everything, called general merchandise stores. And then Tyler and Simpson was the owner wholesale company. And the flour mill was the wholesale on feed and flour.
Well, Mrs. Floyd, you might know something about this. Did you buy your dresses or did you buy the material?
We bought the material and made them.
And you made them?
And then they had a whole lot in the skirt. Taking a lot to make a skirt out of 10 yards, and then they wore them down to the shoes. High heel shoes with high tops and lace them up.
Oh, well, how many dresses did you usually have?
Well, now, we didn't have too many because we was kind of poor in our lifetime. We had, now when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And we had one or two good dresses we kept for Sunday use. Mm-hmm. And then the others we used them for just school and like that.
Well, that's interesting. And, Mrs. Floyd, when were you born and where?
Well, I was born in 1890 on Wild Horse Creek, coast of Tussey, a little town out here by the name of Tussey. The Tussey part was named after my half-sister's my half-sister's brother-in-law.
Well, did you live there all your childhood days?
No, we didn't live there too long. We came to Ardmore, and my husband worked down here in the coal mines, right down this. My daddy, I mean. My daddy worked down here in these coal mines, and then there was just one store here when we first came.
Well, how often did you all come into town?
Well, not very many times, about once a month. And when they did, they brought us kids everything, and we'd bring us gum, and we'd wrap it up in a little paper and keep that. We'd chew it and then wrap it up in the paper and keep it for a long time. Well, we'd have that gum for a week at a time. We'd wrap it up in paper and put it up in the pantry because we wouldn't get any of them about once a month, and candy and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, how many were there in your family?
Well, my mother had 13 children. But of course they died. They wasn't all living. She raised 7.
Well, where did you attend school?
Well, we moved to Francis, Arkansas, and I attended school there what time I did, but I didn't go to more than the 5th grade.
Well, most people then didn't go to over the 5th or 7th, did they?
No.
Well, where did you move after you Where did you say?
Well, we moved from here to Francis, Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And then we come back here. My father died there. And then we moved back here to Berwyn. I was this little thing then, about 9-year-old.
And you didn't know much about
Not
that?
much about it.
Oh, well, where did you attend school, Mr. Floyd?
I started school at Avon, Missouri, and finished at Red Hill College, 60 miles east of Springfield, Missouri.
Oh, well, you went to college then.
I say it's a preparatory college, they call it now. I just trained you to teach.
Well, would
Yeah.
you tell us something about the college then?
Well, all we had in the graduating class that year was instructions how to teach. They made us all teachers that graduated, and then they quit before they graduated, you know, that they made us all teachers. And about all the subjects, we didn't really study any subject. Professor Waters just lectured to us and told us how to handle children in schools and stuff like that. We had mathematics. In other words, we rehearsed algebra and United States history and grammar. But this went back over just occasionally. Most all the study was just instruction from Professor Waters, how to handle children, how to teach school. They didn't any of them go to college then for anything on to make school teachers.
Well, what was the college itself like? How big was it?
Well, it's called Red Hill College. They replaced a little shack down there close to the sawmill for the teacher to live in, the professor. And the ground was laid out before football or basketball was discovered. The ground was laid off for baseball and croquet and races, jumping. And that's about all there was to it. There were 13 in the class I was in. There was 11 girls and 2 boys in the whole class.
Good. Now, then you were there.
And the professor, he got a nice sum of $30 a month.
Oh, my
For teaching.
goodness.
The under teachers in the little primary schools around there got $19 a month. $19 for 20 days for the school and back.
Oh, well, how long was the school day? When did
We went at
school
8
take
o'clock
up?
and got out at 4. We had 1 hour at noon, 15 minutes from 9:45 till 10, and 15 minutes from 2:45 to 3 for recess or exercise.
Break, yeah. To get
The rest
out.
of the time we sat down and let Professor Waters read.
Well, did you
So-
stay in the same room all the time?
All the same room. All the grade schoolers that was in the first to the 6th. The grade school then just went to 6th. And they all went in one room together. One teacher taught the whole, some they learned ABC and some reading and some spelling, all at the same time, in the same room.
That's the way we used to do in church too. All go to church in the same room.
Well, tell us something about the church then.
Had Sunday school in the same room where they had preaching.
Well, what church did you attend?
Well, I attended the Baptist church in Francis, Arkansas, but I come on down to Berwyn down here and was baptized in the Baptist in Washita at a revival Baptist meeting. And then in later years, I went into the Methodist. 1914, after my children, we had 7 children, and I couldn't go very much when we first moved out back from the farm, so a lady friend of mine took them to Carter Avenue, the little ones, and then we went into the Methodist church with them because they didn't want to come out.
Well, did you have revivals back in those days?
Oh, yes, big ones.
Big congregation?
Oh, yeah, we'd go out. They'd have them on right out on the bank of the river, right where they could get out there and baptize them quick as they got enough, and there'd just be from 40 to 50 at a time be baptized right out there in that Washita River.
Oh, my goodness. Well, did you ever, what kind of social life did you ever have any social
Well,
life?
we didn't have very much social life on there. Now, we used to go when I was a girl, up about 16, 17 years old, we used to go to square dances a little bit. That's all they had, and they had neighborhood square dances. And we'd go to the square dances, we'd dance maybe till midnight, 2 rooms, run 2 rooms and have the music in both rooms. And midnight, we all went home. No whiskey, no nothing there. Didn't have anything but just a good time, neighborhood good time. But after, of course, after late years when we went into the church, well, then my mother stopped me from going to the dances.
Well, how many people usually were at the square dances?
Oh, we'd have a lot of people. There'd be a lot of boys and girls. And some of the old folks would go. Get just as much fun out of it as the young ones would.
Well, what kind of music did they play?
Well, they had different music. They had accordions and they had organs. They didn't have pianos very much then. And they had these, I forget just what it was, some kind of a horn, and then they played the fiddle most of the time.
Fiddle most of the time.
Most of it was fiddle music.
Well, did you ever attend any of these square dances, Mr. Floyd?
I had quite an experience when I was a kid, 11-year-old. I was a good singer, and they got me a call. I called for square dances for several years, but I never got on the floor to dance. I never learned how to dance. I get called and tell the others how to dance, and I never did.
After me and him married, we went to a few dances, and he'd call and I'd dance.
With Dr. Hardy. Yeah.
Dr. Hardy.
Dr. Hardy come get us, and we'd go with him out there, the neighbors out north of town, and her and the older folks, wasn't no young people there, older folks, would dance, and I'd do the chorus.
He didn't know how.
I didn't try. I never did try to learn to dance.
What church did you attend, Mr. Floyd?
Well, I joined the Baptist church at Woodford. Was baptized at Woodford in 1901, May 1901. And then you put the dairy in, and I kept away from regular church service up to 1914. In 1914, I transferred my letter to Carter Avenue Church, and I just missed one Sunday school lesson since. I'm kind of proud of that record.
Oh, my goodness.
One Sunday school, 42 years, all I've missed.
I have missed more than he has.
She's had to miss occasionally, but not very often as she's had to miss.
Mrs. Floyd, were there any Indians around you?
Yes, I'll tell you, the night I was born, they were Indians, or wild Indians then. They wasn't civilized down there. And the night I was born, I didn't have a doctor. We had an old nigger lady for a maid. We couldn't get to a doctor in time, so they called in an old colored lady. And so she was my godmother. And there when I was born. And while I was being born, the Indians came on each side of the house, just a hooping and a yelling and a hooping and a yelling and a hooping and a yelling all the way around the house. And sometimes they'd go in and just take everything you had to eat. Just take it out of your house. And if you said one thing, why, they'd just take you. You just have to be as meek as a mouse, or they'd just take you now if you didn't. And there I was, but they didn't come in that night. They didn't come in and get what we had to eat, because I guess that they put the fire, if you burn the fire low and they think there ain't nobody home, they won't go in. So they had a fireplace, and I lived in a log house, and so the fire was burning real low, and they threw some ashes on it. So
well, did any of them ever shoot any arrows at your family or anything?
No, not that I remembered. They might have, but not that I can remember. Of course, that was a long time ago.
Well, did any of them ever go on the warpath?
Yes, a lot of them would go on the warpath.
Well, do you ever remember any famous chiefs at that time?
Well, James Hittenbarger was the name of a woman, and her husband, he was the chief. I've heard my mother tell about it. I was small, of course, I remember her telling that. And he was a daddy of the whole gang around there. What he said went. And this here old James Glosser, and that's her name, and his was, what did I call him? I forget now. But anyhow, he was the chief of the whole bunch. What he said around that little bunch, they went with him, and they'd have some of the awful tearing down parties and things you ever went to see.
Well, how did they live? What did they live in? Teepees or?
Yeah, a lot of them live in teepees and little old houses and any old thing they could get to live in.
Well, what kind of Indians were they?
Well, they were different kinds. They were
Just a mixture of all.
just a mixture of all. They were, I couldn't tell you just what kind all that was.
Mostly
Creeks and Cherokees and Choctaws too, I guess. I don't know. Some of them was awful black and some of them were light. I can't just remember everything.
Are you part Indian?
No, I'm not a part Indian. I think I don't know just exactly how much I am. It didn't do me any good because my husband, my father was Indian. The Indian was on his part, and he was, when he died, when he was born, his mother died, and 3 days later his father died. And we know nothing about his people anywhere, but him and my mother married, and so then he died in later years, and we know nothing of his folks or who raised him. He said outsiders raised him, but they did come and tell him that his name was on the roll when he was dying, when he was on his deathbed, but he said he wasn't, no, must I repeat what he said? He wasn't no Indian. He was raised by whites, and they didn't know him. I don't know. You know, back there they didn't think about these things, and maybe him being all the one, why,
Yeah.
it just beat him out of his. But then after too long, why, my mother went back and tried to prove this right up, but we had not enough evidence.
I see.
So we was beaten out of our part of it.
Well, Mr. Floyd, did you ever live by any Indians?
Well, I had lots of dealings with them, but they were the Choctaw Indians shipped here from Mississippi, like we still have here. The Chickasaw, the Creeks, and the Cherokees that were in here then were scattered when I got here. Not many close around Ardmore, and I wasn't out in the country much too. See around.
Well, did they ever come in the store to buy groceries?
Oh, they come in the store. They cheese 10 cents a pound, and Indian come in, full-blood Indian come in to buy nickels with cheese, and I cut a little thin and held it up that way to him. If I'd like to miss him, I don't want him.
Oh.
He wouldn't take him cheese because it's sliced in.
I see.
But they were about like the average people when I come here. Most of them, they had a few little wars among themselves. They didn't bother white people in this whole last I come that I know of. They had a little trouble among themselves dividing up their tribes. You see, 3 tribes here, Chickasaw, Cherokees, and Creeks. And they got into a little argument among themselves over dividing up the land when they technically get straight on the land.
Okay. Yeah.
I say, well, everywhere the Indians made had tom filler blocks for to make their food to eat.
I mean, did you tell us something about it?
Well, I don't know what it was, of course, but they made it out of meat and stuff like that. Wild meat, they killed their meat and made it out of meal and meat and stuff. Just kind of like I imagine we do hot tamales or something, but they made it out in the yard in a big old pot, full of pots.
Do you remember any of the other foods?
Well, mostly just field stuff, corn bread, and sorghum molasses, and wild meat more than anything else.
Well, did they have one of those big ovens, Dutch oven, I think they are, that they cooked in?
Well, I heard my mother say that they had ovens made out of, they dig them up in the side of the bank and then put the rock around in there and make them an oven to cook right up in the side of the...
Oh, well, they didn't. I just wondered if they had those. Well, what were the Indians dressed like?
Well, as I remember, they all wore dresses made out of real loud stuff, you know, and handkerchiefs around their heads. They wore something like that all the time, and then they wore their
Tree plats.
Two flats of hair, yeah, down the back. And a lot of pigeons around on their head.
They wore a lot of jewelry.
Yeah, a lot of stuff like that.
Well, did any of
They
the...
made their jewelry.
I thought actually they made the jewelry.
Yeah, they did. They made it a lot. And they used to make some out of shucks. And there's a pretty thing here. Out of corn shucks.
Well, what did they look like?
And I've seen shoes made out of corn shucks that they made. And they were pretty.
Well, what were they like? What did they look like?
Well, they look kind of like these moccasins you all wear, only they'd have different kinds of same designs on them, Indian designs.
Did they wear them?
They were. Mm-hmm.
Well, how long did they last?
Well, I don't remember that. I can't tell you just how long they would last. I was quite small when I was back there, and was hearing a lot when I was with these Indians. Just hearing a lot of from my mother. It's all I can kind of remember some of the things.
Well, do you remember anything about the government, Mr. Floyd?
Well, I knew quite a lot of the officers in the old jail. The old jail was at the corner of B and Main Street and run back to Hinkle Alley. That's the whole block across there. And Judge Walcott was one of the old federal judges, all government officers except for statehood in 1970. And old Uncle Joe Mackey was the main United States Marshal. Then Bill McLemore, and then Will Cardinal, that passed away a few days ago here in town, the old United States Marshal. At the first time I was around courts and I had federal court, Judge Hosey Townsend was the federal judge. They had federal court upstairs over that building there at the corner B and Main. And that's where I went to get my license. To get your license, you had to take two men with you before a federal judge, and they both had to swear that they knew your positive age and that you'd been here a certain amount of time. That was to keep people from drifting in and marrying from other countries under the old federal law, you see, that it wasn't legal to marry, wasn't legal for them to marry. And in fact, that's about the only two times I've ever up in the courthouse, the old federal court.
Okay. Well, did they ever have any fines or anything like that?
Any fines?
You know.
Oh, yeah, we had a little rock building down there back of where Dolby's are now, about 10 foot square, and they'd pick up a drunk once in a while and put him in there and fine him $2.
And so the fines weren't
Fine him $2, yeah.
When did you all get married?
Well, we got married the first day of September 1906, just 4 blocks from where we are now. We haven't got very close from home.
Well, what were the weddings like then?
Well, our wedding wasn't very much.
Well, there's all that was at that time. When we got ready to get married, you took a couple of witnesses to get your license.
Down Lee Street, and had our witness, Anna Lee.
Anna Lee and Miss Clark.
Anna Lee, what is her name though? Anna Lee.
Anna Lee was her name.
Yeah,
Anna Lee and Miss Clark was witnesses for it.
She was our witness, and so we didn't think that anybody would be there. Them days we didn't want anybody there.
And on our honeymoon, we got married about 12:30, 1 o'clock, and at 2 o'clock I had to go to milking, and I went home with the milking. After we sold out the big dairy, wife and I took 34 cows and milked them twice a day and carried the children to the barn with us in a box or basket. Have them in the barn while we milked and tended to the cows. I peddled the milk and she done the can washing, bottle washing, and other work.
Well, did they give showers then like
No,
they do now?
honey, we didn't know anything about showers. We never got any showers.
Well, did you have anything like
No, not a
cup
thing.
towels or anything like that?
No, we didn't have anything on what my mother did. She did it here, and the major did it here there, and at noon.
Oh, let me tell you what our housekeeping outfit is.
You're not ashamed of
We
it.
bought our first housekeeping
They
outfit
must
from
better
C.C. Hall up on 3rd Avenue in Caddo Street. And we got a kitchen cabinet and a cook stove, and a heating stove, 10 heating stoves, one wood in, and a bed, and a looking glass. The whole thing comes $55. And after he got it loaded and paid for it, he told the old brother Nelm that worked for him, he said, go back there and get that big can rocker one of them and give it to him for paying cash. So that's our housekeeping outfit.
And that's all
Two
you have?
chairs and the table and the stove and the bed and then the old big cane rockers and the gifts. Cost $55. Couldn't hardly get it down.
Oh, my goodness. Did you have a wedding reception or anything like that?
We just married and got in the buggy. He had a little old horse that goes the buggy, and we got in the buggy, me and him and the ones that were with us, and we just drove and drove and drove and drove till he had to go to the mountain. I come home, went to bed, and he went to the mountain.
Well, what was statehood like?
When we voted for statehood, I was on the election board. I held elections 4 miles west of town at Uncle Jack's store, the old country store. And it took 5 of us practically all of our time filling out the ballot because people couldn't read and write. I think it was about an average of 4 out of every 6 that couldn't read nor write. Four out of every 6 that couldn't read nor write. And we had to read their ballot over to them and then vote for them. And then we'd sign it, and they'd make a mark. They could all make a cross mark. They'd been trained that. That's the only thing they knew. From Ardmore to 8 mile north, 8 mile west, and 2 mile east, back to those country places out there. But 4 out of 6 of them all day long couldn't read and write. Never had no school.
Well, how did the people take it? I mean, did they accept it?
Oh, we had a few big men that was pretty well to do, didn't want to pay no tax. But the average man wanted to tax to get schools, wanted to stay there. I think our little box out there was probably 160 or 80 voters. There's only 2 voted against it. Just 2 out of that box. Of course, there's 3 boxes in Ardmore, I think, another box over Berlin and down at Springer and Glen around over the country. But I think 92% of the people voted for statehood. That's my memory. It's been quite a while.
Well, how did they celebrate it?
Celebrate it?
Uh-huh.
Well, we celebrated just before the first election elected officers, and we had street roped off, and Lee Cruz made a speech on the Jim Crow law. You know what the Jim Crow law is?
No.
You haven't heard Jim Crow law. Well, that was one of the first laws we had. Well, the Jim Crow law was a law to prohibit the Negroes from attending any of the white people's schools, churches, or dining rooms, or hotels. Anywhere they wasn't allowed to sleep or eat with the white people. And that is Jim Crow law. And Lee Cruz told them how fine a bunch of people we had, what good Negroes we had in Ardmore, and how we loved them. But he said we thought according to the Bible and according to God's laws that God separated them and they should stay separate. And I still think that's a gift.
Well, did they have any did people come from all places just have big picnics or something?
There's probably 4,000 people there that night. Now, on the 4th of July, up till 30 years ago, we'd always have a picnic out at the park. And there'd be people there from all over the country. 4th of July. And the 28th of July, we celebrated Ardmore's birthday. And that was always a big crowd. And they had lemonade and soda pop. That's about the only time a lot of us saw soda pop. And lemonade. And they had a big platform out there and danced. And everybody just got together and had a good time celebrating Ardmore's birthday. Huh? Yeah, they still do, but they don't have a good time like we did then. There's so many people go. We don't get go out
We
there.
used to have country
We go out there now for breakfast. You get 200 or 300 out there. It ain't like 500 or 600 or 1,000, on that park out there in old Whittington Park.
Well, then, statehood must have really been important in
Well, now
Oklahoma.
every year, as
Oklahoma.
time goes along, they celebrate statehood more and more each day.
Mm-hmm.
And now this coming year, we'll celebrate our 50th statehood year, which will be all over the state. Everybody will celebrate that. That'll be the day they're going to have a big time at Oklahoma City. All big towns will have this time. That's for the 50th year. Half century.
Okay. Well, Mr. Floyd, what did statehood mean to you?
Well, it meant everything to me because the creeks that they had to bridge across were made out of poles. And sometimes you'd leave home in the morning and come a big rain and wash the poles out and you couldn't get back home that night. So the bridge across the Caddo between here and Springer, like we have now, built by the state highway, was built by donations. Merchants in town furnished the money and we workers cut the logs and put them there. And that was a free bridge. But what we wanted, and most everybody, wanted bridges across the creek so we'd go and someone wanted it. To me, it meant everything nearly because I had lots of dealings across the Caddo Creek, hauling seeds to my stock and back and forth. And when it rained, I just had to let them do it out. There was no seed much raised this side of the Caddo, round down.
Then it meant the building of the camp.
And it helped us in every way. The town began to spread directly after statehood.
Well, what did it mean to you, Mrs. Floyd?
Well, it meant that we'd have better things everywhere. We'd have better roads, we'd have better streets. Even we wasn't long till we had sidewalks. And then we had pole sidewalks. You go start the town, you drop a nickel, you go down the branch or something like that. It wasn't long after statehood till we had sidewalks and we had paved roads and everything means it was better, you see.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still getting better.
And we also had public schools. We didn't have
Yeah,
public
had
schools
public
before that.
schools.
Well, the town, like Ardmore did, but the country school had to pay by the month to go.
That's the
Oh,
reason
they
they
did.
didn't
Each
get too
child-
much still, and a whole lot of people wasn't able to pay.
They had to pay their own.
Had to pay $2 a month to go to school, each child that went.
Oh, well, I didn't know that. I hadn't
Yeah.
dreamed about that.
Well, you sure did. We didn't get anything through this.
That's the reason so many of the people couldn't read and write. They didn't have a chance to go to school.
I see. Then statehood must have really meant a lot to you. This has been an interview by Sue Carol Austin, senior in Ardmore High School of the 1955-56 school time.